We just took a hard look at renewing our leadership globally. Obviously, a fundamental part of that is strengthening our military, on which we've relied so heavily for the past several years. The people on this panel are renowned experts on this matter and have intense, frankly, personal experience with these issues over the last several years and, frankly, over the last several decades. We're going to start with Richard Danzig, immediately to my left, who was our 71st Secretary of the Navy from 1998 to 2001. And among other government jobs he's had over the last several decades looking at these matters. Richard's going to set the stage for this panel, talking a little bit about national security, defense policy making, and the need to be open and bringing the American people into that process. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you for doing such a good job with those unruly foreign policy types in the previous panel. As you talked about how each of them was so decorated, the thought that ran through my mind was how when my wife looked at the suit I proposed to wear to this event, she told me I needed to be redecorated. There are a lot of things to talk about, very real problems for the military that I think we're going to touch on in the course of this hour, the difficulties in recruitment, issues of declining standards, questions about how we refurbish and restore the force as it returns from Iraq, difficulties of funding, the need to modernize and create, most fundamentally, a very different kind of military. There are also a huge number of things about Barack Obama to talk about that are relevant to military policy and to foreign policy. I just want to, instead, though, in my opening couple of minutes here, to take one particular proposition and see if I can bring it a little deeper and show you how, as a national security expert, I see Barack Obama functioning in a little more depth than maybe completely visible to the world at large. And that is the issue of openness. What does this mean in the national security context? What does it mean that Barack Obama, both as a matter of conviction and as a matter of character, conducts himself and wants to conduct U.S. government business in a way which is more open than we have seen in recent years? First, it's deeply meaningful to the military officers, so many of whom are close associates and friends of mine. I've seen Barack Obama in intimate gatherings with 10 or 12 or 15 retired military officers who've recently left service. And then I've talked to them about him. And what is so striking is the first thing everybody says is, it's really striking to me how he listens, how open he is to hearing what we have to say. And when you talk to Barack Obama about putting together a gathering of this kind, one of the first things he says is, I don't want yes people. I won't want people who just have my views. I don't want people who are simply going to be saying the same thing. I want diversity of viewpoint, and I want to encourage candor. And his demeanor does that. I don't think I need to tell you, it's very different from the history of this administration, and absolutely crucial, it seems to me, in commanding the respect of the military and in making right decisions. This is a key dimension of openness. Senator Obama is also terrifically open about his own feelings and thoughts. He'll sit there and assimilate, and he'll ask questions, and he doesn't disguise disagreements. And when he's got one view that differs from others, he's not afraid to step forward and to say, hey, I'm going to be helping in the process by being straightforward with you about what I think. This leads, in my opinion, to vastly better decisions. It leads also to an atmosphere vis-a-vis the military that is very different. Again, if you look back on issues like Iraq and the like, one of the things that's very striking is how a small inner circle creates that kind of decision and then kind of springs it on the rest of it. Getting away from that inner circle mentality is fundamental. Openness also means something vis-a-vis the American public. If you look at Barack Obama's feelings about these issues, it is that we need to be straight with the American public about what we care about, what we're thinking about doing, etc. We need to be honest with our allies. We need not to say to Pakistan, well, we won't raise certain issues because we'll sugarcoat them. We need to be straightforward in that outreach. But vis-a-vis the American public, they're entitled to that same kind of respect. So if, for example, to pick a concrete instance in the military context, we're concerned about national missile defense, The impulse within this administration has been to hide that program, to hide behind theories of classification, to abandon standards and tests about that $11 billion a year program, and not make it an issue, when in fact it ought to be subject to the regular kind of Pentagon and other checks and balances and observation. Openness means being in the daylight with respect to crucial national security decisions, and in my view, Sunshine is a crucial disinfectant. When this is run by the inner team, inner professionals and the like, it comes ultimately, I think, to become, I'm tempted to say rancid. It loses its qualities. And finally, I've mentioned already a third attribute of openness, which is openness to the world. The ability to connect with a large number of people in different environments is, as John Hudson nicely put it earlier, in the DNA of Barack Obama. And when ma'am asked about the question about the evangelicals and the like, I see not only in Barack Obama someone who has a unifying effect in the United States, which I hugely value. Remember the days when our national security policy was bipartisan. But I also value it hugely because he has that same unifying, connecting, open effect on the world at large. And that means that a tendency to what I would call militarized national security problems, a tendency to think, well, we'll use force in all these kinds of ways, steps back and says, no, there's a whole collection of things, an armamentarium of possibility that we can utilize here. And I think Barack Obama is very good about that. So this is just one example of one characteristic, the characteristic of openness that I think is fundamental to a leader and that he does well. And I hope in the course of the discussion we can suggest some other examples. Thank you.